Thursday, February 12th, 2026 at 12:01 p.m. This is the Council for Human Services. My name is Veronica Bolchik and I'm the chair. And our meeting today is being held in a hybrid fashion. So all votes will be done by roll call. First thing I'd like to do is establish quorum. So I'm looking up on the screen and I see Suzanne Keating.
Here.
Right. Sue Minthinen.
Present.
And Tara Rastiri.
Here.
And Sarah Wright.
Here.
And Amanda Wright. And I think, did Amanda?
Yeah, Amanda just here.
Okay, good. Thank you. And myself, so we do have a quorum. I don't see any other members up on the screen at the moment. All right. For our town administration, we've got here in the trailer, Jericho Melee.
Here.
And Alexander Richards.
Here.
All right. And we do have two members of the public who are up on the screen. So we've got Marcos Alcorn and Tracy Kulik with us, who will be doing a presentation shortly. So first and foremost is an acceptance of the agenda. Can I please have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I second it.
As a reminder, just for some housekeeping, because this is being done in a hybrid fashion, before speaking, just state your name, and first name is fine on that. So thank you just for remembering that. So for accepting the agenda, Suzanne?
Yes, aye.
Okay, just state your name, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, Suzanne.
All right. Sue Minthinen?
Sue, I.
Tara? Can hear you.
You're muted, Tara.
Sorry, my husband walked in the room and my laptop hooked up to his AirPods. Sorry.
That's right. Good. Sarah?
Sarah Wright, here.
All right. And Amanda?
Here.
Okay. All right. So that we do have the agenda. Approval of minutes from 12/18/25, which seems like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So
I move to approve the minutes.
Okay, that's, and Amanda seconds. All right, so roll call again here. Suzanne?
Suzanne, aye.
Sue?
Sue, I.
Tara?
Aye.
Sarah?
I excuse me.
Amanda?
I.
And myself, Veronica, aye. So we have minutes. So thank you, Lexi, for getting those together. Appreciate it very much. And now we're on to public comment. I don't think we have anyone here except for our presenters. I'm just going to ask Jericho, shall we just move on to the presentation and then come back to item number 5, which is an update on the grant recommendations?
Yeah.
Because that may have some conversation that will go on. So that brings us, we're going to jump ahead to item number 6 is a preliminary presentation by Marcos, and Tracy, I'm sure will be joining also. Had the pleasure of having a sneak peek of this at the contract review committee last Friday. So I think everyone is going to be anxious to hear what you're going to be showing us. So I'm going to give the floor to you.
Thank you. And I do want to introduce, I don't know how many of you actually have met. I want to introduce our CEO, Tracy Kulik, who is our project lead for this engagement, who's also here on the call with me. So let me display my screen. It is great seeing um, all of you. I think I've met all of you while I was on site. So let me know if you can see my screen. It should be
Mhm.
coming up on a large
Yeah,
scale.
you can see it.
Okay, thank you, Tara. So today we're going to go over where we are with data, what we've collected, some of our initial findings, and this is just for full-time residents. So this is just for your, residents in Nantucket, because we're still in the process of collecting some of the seasonal resident input as we were planning and going back on site. This is by all means not all of the data, but just to start getting discussions. If we need to pivot somewhere, we can, and we can do that. So we're going to be talking about just the overall project overview. We're going to start with our literature map, what studies have been done, because we want to make sure that you see all of the a 360-degree picture of what's been done in the past and what we're doing now. Our community touches where we are now, where data is coming from, and then we're going to dive into that whole resident survey component, and then we'll talk about what's next. So as far as an overview, and if I'm going too fast or if you have any questions, please feel free to jump in at any time. As far as a project overview, we started this back in March when Nantucket released an RFP. We, Kulik Strategic Advisors, were awarded that RFP with a 9-month project. And so what we decided to do starting this in August was that we came up with Jericho with a 2-step Jericho step for data collection. So we were on site October for our first number one data component for seasonal workers. And we're at the end of the season and we're looking at coming back for the beginning of the season to really then compare those two data elements and say, is there any difference as far as seasonal workers are leaving versus when they're coming in industries in human services that they're requesting at the beginning versus at the end. So everything in the green box is work that's already been done. We completed community profiles, the literature mapping, which you're going to see next. And we really have been heavily involved in just data collection. That really has been what's taken the most time, which we'll continue to do up to April. But around March, we're going to start working with Jericho and you all at creating the outline for what we want to see in that final report as we're cross-tabbing a lot of this data. We want to make sure that it truly represents who you are. And really, if there's an area that we want to dive deeper, we're able to do that. So as far as the literature map, these are all of the studies. If we go from number one, not including the yellow one, that's where we are right now, that we've reviewed to look at comparing and seeing the number of resident inputs that was collected, when it was done, the gaps that were identified. And I want to point out at least number 7, your aging group here, that is the one that really had the most resident input. Your 2017 Aging on Nantucket study, with a total of 734 residents participating in this study. However, I do want to call out and say that that was over a 2-year period. So much more time to do data collection. And we are in a much shorter time frame for that. But so far, excluding that number 7, we have surpassed the numbers when it comes to input. Tracy, anything here in the literature map that you would like to add?
Well, one correction I'd like to make in the introductions, as I think you all know, is Marcos is truly the project lead on this. One of the requests that you had in the RFP was to get a lot more input. We certainly have a lot of you to thank for that, in particular, Tara, in efforts that you've extended to try to get that input. Our target is right around 3 to 380 for total input for this. And I think that, as Marcos already indicated, we're working through a lot of efforts, and one of our asks to you at the end of this, which I think was brought up in the contract review committee, is to extend a lot of efforts in this in-between season to try to get up near that 300. And one real request is that many of your staff are not aware that they're eligible for a lot of these human services. So any extension that they can give us of filling out the survey would be helpful, because we are stratifying this certainly to seasonal workers and people who are in need. But often people don't realize they qualify for human services that they do. So that's my 2 cents on this.
Thank you, Tracy. So going with where are we as far as community input, as Tracy was talking into the numbers? So far, we are at 276 community touches. So we have collected input from over 276. In that 360-degree view, 10 of them being came from interviews. A lot of you participated on one-on-ones with us. If you haven't and you still would like to do that, send us an email. We're happy to schedule a one-on-one with you and continue to collect that input. When I was on site, we had 3 focus groups with around a total of 33 participants. We collected 14 provider surveys. Again, if you're a provider and you didn't do that survey, and you would still like to do it, you still have time, go ahead and do that. You see the list of all of them. One provider, our last one, 14th, completed the survey but did not specifically identify the organization they were representing. So, but if you're still an organization and you want to provide this input, let us know. We'll send you the link. But I know what we all want to talk about is where are we with the resident survey? I know
And
that's,
I-
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead,
I'm
Susan.
sorry to interrupt, Marcos. In the column focus groups, Rotary Club, Boys and Girls Club, what is our hour?
So, it's actually, I think it's our home. It is
Is it
That's-
our house?
It's our
yes,
house.
our house.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's why.
Oh,
Yeah, it's our house.
is that what? Somebody tell me what that is.
Our house is it's kind of a modern update of the teen center. It's out on
Yeah.
Wera.
Oh, yeah.
She's doing it.
Okay, now I know. Thank you.
Can I ask just,
Go ahead, Amanda.
was Fairwinds asked to do this? Because they're the main mental health agency on the island and doing
They've-
crisis.
They've participated in this. I think it was during the Morgan departure, but I've got Fairwinds in mind for the focus group afterwards. I'm more interested in them making sure they get the provider survey and then a one-to-one there, probably with either Rachel or Lauren.
Okay, yeah. And the only other thing I was thinking, I mean, it looks like you did the warming place, but I've been helping the warming place for like the past 2 months, and there's a lot of wonderful individuals that, some are not English speaking and others are, that might share a good perspective.
Would it be better to get paper copies down there, or are the overnight staff willing to kind of help out with like a QR code and like data entry?
That would have to be a question for Deb, but it's worth asking.
Okay.
And Lucia, like the manager, has, been helping translate and stuff.
The other thing, Amanda, that we can do is, as I'm looking at scheduling the second time for going on site, I am Spanish speaking. So if some of that population is Spanish speaking, I'm happy to facilitate the survey with them, have a focus group, and facilitate the survey as a collective with individuals.
Okay.
So if that's an option, that's something else that we can do.
Okay. Yeah, that's great.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you. I have a similar question, just looking at the provider survey. So I don't know if our Island Home or Sherburne or NERDA or GATRA, our transportation broker, those would be some really good places, I think, if you could, if it's not too late. But
What I was thinking of is I don't know if they have like in bus ads, but I would love to put like a poster in the bus with a QR code so people can fill it out while they're traveling. I have a couple of questions pending for NERDA, so I'll mention that when I talk to them. I know they have the new one of the new I think it's an operations manager or operations coordinator has reached out a couple of times for like more human servicey type stuff. So I suspect they'll be amenable to it.
okay, and by the same token, Jericho, what about the ferries? Because
That
would be great.
historically there has been weird history around messaging and outreach done on the posters there. I can get some in the terminal likely for arrival at both
Yep.
Highline and on Highline and what's it called? Steamship Authority.
That would be great. That would really be great. Thank you.
And I know, Sarah, as far as marketing to the providers, they were at least a good 10 emails in direct requests from Jericho to existing funding providers to individuals that were interested in receiving funds to complete the survey. So there's definitely been extensive outreach done to that, which we're still able to continue to collect input. We don't want to discourage anyone from providing that input. So any suggestions that this group has, we're happy to take that.
Okay, super. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then so as far as like our resident input, that is really what we're here to talk about. We have so far 219 survey responses. We have 196 that are full-time residents who completed this in English, and we'll talk about that in a minute. 11 of them who have completed the survey in Spanish, 9 seasonal workers, and then 3 seasonal workers in Spanish. So Tracy talked a bit about this, but really our call to action to this group is how can we get to that, number that we initially intended to, that we really want to, the 380. I know, Jericho, you're talking about some of the outreach possibilities and focus groups to talk about. But I do want to take a moment and say, to Sarah at the hospital, Amanda with some of the organizations that you've talked about, Suzanne, people you work with, what else can we do to encourage people to participate in collecting this info for us to meet and reach that goal? I know, go ahead. Suzanne, anything?
No, but I didn't. Sorry. Yes, one thing. There are a couple of like cafes where people sit and have tea and stuff. Like it used to be called the Corner Table. I forget what the name is now. It's new.
Cafe 22.
But Cafe 22 and Pip and Anchor are two that I can think of where people are sitting having coffee and tea, and maybe we can provide some there, for people to fill out paper forms, or a lot of them are on their devices when they're there, laptops or phones. So maybe just a poster with a QR code.
This is Veronica. At the CRC meeting last week, we also had this discussion, and one of the major things that came out of that is a letter to the editor. And I worked on a draft of that yesterday that Jericho has that basically one of the things as we get into looking at some of the information, what really stood out is a good portion of our population is unaware that there is human services available and that the town supports human services. So a letter to the editors, basically the goal is to let people know what we do and that we're doing, funded by the town, this study. And the results of this will benefit the entire community and particularly, never mind just the town, but the organizations that are funded on the island. So, and that will have a signature of CHS and contract review. And we hope that it'll be published in the Inky and on the online current, etc. So that was one of the things that came out of that meeting.
Hey, Veronica, this is Tracy. When do you think that might be published?
We're hoping as soon as possible and within the next week, we
Yeah.
could get that out. And hopefully that comes out of that also is to get a feature on one of those sites or all of the sites of the study and what we're doing. Because people do read the paper publication and the online. So that's the second step that we're hoping for that. So within the next week and actually the next couple of days, we should have that ready.
And I can run through some of the ideas that we have planned that came out of CRC, et cetera, real quick, just so that like we're not covering the same ground twice. I'm gonna do the STEAM festival at the high school on, I believe it's March 14th. I'm gonna do some tabling there. I'll be doing Ask Me About Local Public Health, and I'll have paper copies and then QR codes to send people to the online forums. There's a newsletter and then a direct email to town staff through HR that is pending. That's going to be also in the comms, HR, and town managers newsletter. I have a list of places where the physical, like a physical pamphlet will go out with the QR code. That's like high traffic places. The ones that I found were effective back in COVID. So like the Trading Place, Old South Market, the El Salvadorian Market, Hatches, whatever I can in Stop and Shop and a couple other places around there. I would love additional suggestions for locations. I'm adding the transportation areas in. Amanda, do you have another one to add?
The library.
They should be involved. I think they're already, I think, hosting it. And I talked with with Lisa over there to try and set up one of their internet cafe things as a direct kiosk so that people can just do it right there. It'll be just sitting there ready to go. We're gonna make an appearance with Marcos and Tracy next week at the Healthy Community Collaborative. I'm gonna try and be at that ongoing from now on, just to remind people and help connect the dots when it comes to where they can set it out. There's the letters mentioned previously, and then now I'm adding some stuff on the transport, the NERDA and SSA.
Thank you.
So we're optimistic that we'll get to our numbers. Sarah, is there a way, since you're with the hospital, is there a way for us to try to partner up and see if there's a way of marketing this in the hospital?
Oh, yeah,
Or through-
there is. Yeah, there is. It's kind of beyond the scope here, but we have our public information officer sends out a weekly email called Vitals and so forth. So you and I, if you want to make a time to talk about this in more depth, I feel confident that the hospital would support this. Yes.
Okay, I'll reach out to you after this meeting to schedule some time to move forward with that.
Great.
I have a question and an idea.
Okay, go ahead.
One, I was thinking, we talked a few months ago about the dump, and also if there is an upcoming hazardous waste disposal day, you get a lot of folks those days and the weekends, especially at the dump. The other thing I was thinking was, have we thought about talking to N Magazine, the editors there, about doing an article about human services and the needs, and because, you know, they've done some really terrific articles recently related to food insecurity and, you know, and things like that. And I just feel like I'm sure, I couldn't imagine they wouldn't want to do something.
So I've contacted both Current and the Inky about the needs assessment a couple of times earlier in the process. I think the letter to the editor is kind of the I was about to say opening salvo, but that's not the right metaphor. But that's like I think that's the door in. Or someone who has more pull potentially there or can sell it better than I did might want to contact out. But I have tried that. I feel like there was something
You've
else
tried
that-
N Magazine?
not N Magazine, but N Magazine is published by the same people who do the current.
Yeah.
So that was how I was going
Okay.
initially. But I think like that's another definite approach.
Right. But I do
Yeah,
think.
I had a number of conversations over the summer with Bruce Purcell about kind of the community and things like that. And I think he would certainly be, you know, readily agreeable to doing something.
I think the entire Council for Human Services should be on the cover. That would be
Yeah.
my suggestion.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. Maybe we see if
We'll come up with some other suggestions.
Well, I mean, we could do something like that where it is all the members, but also then, you know, brochure or something that had each of the organizations across the island. I mean, it could be a collage,
Right.
Right.
you know. So, something to that effect.
Did we get-
Maybe it could include the photos from the grant award ceremony on September 12th.
Did we
Yeah.
get media? Was there media there?
Yeah.
There was.
There
Who-
was.
Well,
And
there
Okay.
was,
Yeah.
yeah,
And he did run an article.
some McGrady,
Yes,
the young man.
yes, he
And
did
didn't
run
you
an
take a lot of pictures, Jericho?
There were definitely a ton of pictures up. We had those in the newsletter, and I don't believe anyone picked them up outside of that though.
But John,
He ran a-
Robson did run an article on it. So we did
Yeah,
get
yeah.
press out of that. And we will be doing another grant award ceremony in September that will be part of the whole kickoff for the next grant cycle, ending this grant cycle and doing that. So that date will be forthcoming also.
But were we planning for second or third week of September-ish?
We bounced around a couple because Labor Day is very late this
Yeah.
year.
And
But
Yeah.
go ahead, Jericho.
I was just going to say that will be an ongoing annual thing that we do. Basically, is an award ceremony for each year as end of one cycle, start of another. And then also, so this is the year that we're anticipating the formal request letter for additional funding for human services. That I think we talked about in the CRC, but that's the other letter that's coming through on this, which is that we've done a process review. We're in the midst of a needs assessment. These were conditions for us requesting additional funding, and now's the time to start with that process.
Right.
And I guess what I just want to add, yes, I'm somewhat joking about being on the cover of N Magazine. I think more to the point, as well as, you know, when you think about the letter to the editor, I appreciate that suggestion also, but print media is somewhat static. So I think if we can really talk to whoever, Daybreak, the AC, the radio, whatever, about, and all these other places, about getting into some of their dynamic social media, you know, the Instagram reels and stories and all that other stuff. I think that's more point in time. It's less point in time and more ongoing. Kind of, you know, I think we can build better momentum if we talk to people who have that kind of media savvy.
So
Well-
I spoke with Jim Pignato he's he's the new overseer for the Daybreak newsletter about putting PSA and QR codes in there. They can do some. The trouble is that if we want the persistent presence we need for this, like a QR code just sitting there on every newsletter for the for the next like 3 months. That's going to cost money, like a substantial amount of money. In the past, they would run PSAs around clinics for me for short periods of time as like a public, as a legitimate public service. And I can try and see how much coverage I can get in on there. Potentially, I can see if we swap around some of, because it is affiliated with the radio station. So depending upon that, it might figure out some way to work out a deal on that. There will be some presence in Daybreak at the very least, and then in the current run competitor for that. I don't know that it's going to be pervasive, and I'm not sure that it'll be picked up and run with as a story. Like, it's not a reason not to try. I have done some initial investigation on this, just haven't got a lot of bites yet.
How about the Dreamland too? Some of those, you know,
But before the show.
right.
Yeah.
And one of the, talk about social media, we have definitely been marketing this on Facebook in a lot of your actual Facebook groups. We've done it, Ask Nantucket, Nantucket Year-Round Community, Nantucket Seasonal and Year-Round Rentals, Nantucket Community, that's a different group, and then Work Nantucket 2.0. So we have definitely been doing a lot of that social media. And I think that, and this is just us as KSA, I don't know, Jericho, and if this group has your own Facebook, Instagram type of social media presence that we can kind of tie it up and then continue through this group to continue to market that. Because as we all know, as you posted today, and then if 10 people post something else, it kind of continues to push it down to the bottom. So how do we keep it relevant on top of that page list without really kind of spending a lot of money and doing it to just have it on top?
Jericho, it's Veronica. Do we need to go through Florencia for that?
For anything utilizing town media, yes.
Okay, because one of the things we discussed last week is the police department, the fire department has done these wonderful, very human videos of getting information across. And it'd be wonderful if we could get something just talking about human services. And of course, it's all going to tie back into doing the survey, but we also want people to be aware. So it would be great if we can get that. And I know that as with everything, we are fighting for real estate,
Yeah.
fighting for money, et cetera, et cetera.
And I certainly, we will definitely get support. It's just that it's a bandwidth issue, I think,
Right.
for a lot of the town organizations. But we will definitely get a significant number of results from the HR letter. I'm pretty sure the STEAM letter will get a good cross-section of people, or the STEAM appearance. And then I think that the physical outreach for the QR codes at a bunch of different locations, that was associated with a pretty sharp increase in registrations for the online clinics we were running, for the online signups for clinics we were running in COVID, which is my model for the outreach and all this. So I think those will move the dial pretty significantly. And then I think the letter to the editor and then additional media coverage after that is really going to be helpful. I don't know why it didn't get picked up earlier, like on the initial launch. It's odd to me. I thought it'd be more interesting. It also aligns with, as people mentioned, a lot of news stories coming out of N Magazine, a lot of discussion of Nourish Nantucket, those kinds of organizations. I thought it would have been a good time to tie that all together. But it just didn't go, sadly.
And I do want to also just add, Jericho, with kind of the marketing. One of the things that came out of the contract review, there was a question about really the impact from the radio. And so I've gone back and I looked, and from the moment in December when the radio started coming live, we had a 23% increase in survey responses. So that is around 47 survey responses that have come in from the radio. So that's powerful, and being able to tie it back to say, hey, this is what the impact of that was. So thank you, Tara, for that. It definitely has increased the number of participants who have completed the survey.
Great. That's great.
So any other questions? I mean, this was great dialogue. I know that we have a lot of data, but we can share this presentation. Anything else as far as where else to take the marketing and how to do it? How can we include the businesses? I think this is a conversation that we really haven't had as they're preparing for the new season to come in and people to come in and their workers. How can we involve the business community in distributing the surveys, in marketing the health and human services? Like, how can we bring that to their attention?
Well,
Well,
the
the
first
thing-
thing I thought of is the Rotary Club. The Rotary Club is a group of business people.
And the Chamber of Commerce, of course, is
Mhm.
key for
I was
that
gonna say the-
also.
Chamber of Commerce, and then like real estate companies.
Which demo? I mean, yeah, I guess that would go straight to him.
I mean, they're working with a lot of different people around rentals, or, I mean, I don't know, just to get different perspectives.
Yeah, Jericho, I think this is Tracy. Where you are heading is we have good response. We've had great ideas just mentioned for more response. I do think one of the critical things you brought up is awareness at all, and awareness at what people wouldn't think of themselves as lower income. But critically, one of the unique factors of the study is these seasonal workers. So thinking of businesses that would attach to seasonal workers for that May is what's critical here to get enough volume to really represent them. Because I think the data analysis so far has been superb, but the low numbers of seasonal workers doesn't really allow us to stratify them. I was fascinated when Marcos was telling me one of the key groups is Hispanics, but Hispanic women. I wouldn't have guessed that. So I think that kind of focus is pretty critical in advance of May with those businesses.
I mean, I just think about with seasonal workers, I mean, a lot of the restaurants rely on seasonal workers,
And the
And then a lot
landscape
of-
companies.
and the landscaping and construction.
Yeah.
Right, and the house
Yeah, like-
cleaners. House
Well,
cleaners.
and right now the people who are interacting with those seasonal workers are the food pantry and Nantucket Food Fuel and Rental Assistance.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, I don't know if we have paper copies there, but that is something that I think we need to maybe have some paper copies available.
I think I know, Marcos, when you were,
Happy to send more.
okay, I wasn't sure, did we get, paper copy? I know we got collected paper copies from a variety of places, but I don't remember if we did, NFFR or the food pantry direct.
I did the food pantry when I was there, when I was doing the key informant interview. But I think having a poster and having, paper copies would be beneficial, and having them ask people as they're waiting in line before they open, hey, can you complete this survey? Sue, you had your hand raised. Anything else?
No, that was just I jumped in without being called on to talk about food, fuel, and rental assistance because I was in a meeting with Janice yesterday and she was talking a lot about she's got, a bead on 500 housekeeping folks that are doing nothing right now, like that are underemployed or unemployed right now. And same for lots of the outdoor roofers, the landscapers.
And actually for the food pantry right now that it is off season, there's sort of a gathering place in the bus station. So I'd be willing to spend couple of afternoons, they're actually just circulating with those and trying to get some of the clients to, fill out the response. As
So,
opposed to being out in the cold.
so what I will do, Jericho, is I will get another packet of paper copies, surveys, and I will send them to you with a pre-addressed return FedEx envelope. So as you collect these, let me know, Sue, if there is someone that you would want me to send some as well to see what these individuals that right now they're working with. Happy to, or I don't know, Jericho, if it's something that you would want to distribute and then collect and then send back to me. But if we need to send some of these directly to other community organizations, on island organizations, we're happy to. So we can do that and then have them be sent back to us. And we'll do all the data entry.
And I'm going to add Family Resource Center to that physical one as well.
Good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I think at least initially just send some direct to me and then
Yeah.
I can distribute out, or we might do, I can get NFFR's contact information, or I can just bring it over to the existing, or are they doing anything in the new facility yet? Like the offices in there yet?
I think it's still
Under
construction, except for the deer processing. So,
but yeah, those are definitely things I can do.
Okay.
But yeah, send a batch to 131 to start, and then we can work from there.
Okay. I will do that. Anything else? This has been a great discussion as to how else can we market this. Before, in the last few minutes that we have available, it'll be a quick review of where we are in data, but you will get the presentation. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. But any last minute or last comments as our call to action to continue to market this?
And if it comes up, you can also reach out to me.
And that was go ahead, Jericho.
I was gonna say I'm gonna try and send around like the physical location list to everybody here, and I'd like, if there's places that are things that are not on that list, we can add them to that. Just because that's the spot that I think that the news story, and then like any place where there's a physical or personal interaction that you can kind of sell people on it is really what is going to move the dial.
Yeah.
And then I think we get a measurable percentage of like the bulk outreach through the newsletters, through the HR outreach attempts at whatever large organizers, or through contacting mailing lists through Chamber of Commerce or the Builders Association or those equivalents.
Jericho, any idea when the HR letter is going to go out?
I am trying to time it for they go out middle of the month.
Okay.
I don't want to send one out in the February one because that'll be out during school vacation, I believe. So I'm hoping it'll be in early March because that will line up. So it'll be trying to align it with when you're kind of going to be around, so I can do a handoff if there's people who want to do in person or etc.
Right. Okay. Well, that was a great discussion. Thank you for all of your input. We took a lot of notes, and so we'll continue to work in marketing this. So now to some of the really exciting part as to where we are with data collection. And I'll go through this fairly quick, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to jump in. But 92% of survey responses are full-time residents of Nantucket. And here to the comment that really started the whole dialogue, 26% of them are unaware of the human services that are available in Nantucket.
Wow.
28% of them actually have access some type of health and human services in Nantucket. When we're looking at the level of education on the bottom left of the screen, that pretty much matches your demographic. It's really, you have still a lot of individuals with a college degree, graduate, but it does match your current demographic profile for Nantucket. We have a really big focus on individuals who English is a second language. But one of the things we have come across is due to the political nature and world that we're living in, the fact that there's been a couple of raids in Nantucket, people have been somewhat skeptical in completing these surveys in a Spanish or Portuguese, but they're completing them in English and saying, hey, I speak other languages as well. So 91% of our survey respondents reported English as their primary language, with 9% being broken down with Spanish, 7%, German, 1%, and Portuguese, 1%. So we have the surveys in those specific languages, but a lot of these people are actually completing them in the English survey platform. 74% of survey respondents are females, and 23% are men. This is a national statistics. We see this everywhere. Women are 3 times more likely to complete a survey compared to men. So we normally see women being 3 times higher than the survey responses for men. From a racial ethnic group, so far, 83% of them are Caucasian, 4.2, sorry, actually 2.4 Black and or African American, 8.3 so far have reported themselves being Hispanic. And currently, when comparing this to secondary research, we are almost half of that, like 16.4% is what overall the population of Nantucket reports being Hispanics. So it's somewhat trending as far as with data that we're collecting with your current population. Same thing with the age groups. We see that there is a larger group within the senior population. But we do see the trend here of the data that's being collected matching your existing demographics, which is what we want to be able to see. Household incomes, which it goes back to a comment that Tracy made earlier today, knowing that people being unaware that they qualify for services. When looking at incomes overall for Nantucket, a median family income is $151,000 a year. 49, I believe that was like close to 49% of individuals who have reported, 49.8%, have reported an income below of 150,000. So that is a huge percentage of the population that is participating in the survey that is even below that median income level, who actually qualify for services.
And just a quick comment here. We've had other very affluent markets like Brookline, Massachusetts, or believe it or not, Los Alamos, New Mexico, nuclear physicists there. And some of the people who are helping us with survey collection, for instance, a couple of 2 teachers who qualified here, they would have made together about 180. Were shocked when they looked at some of this and realized they qualified for human service assistance. They may qualify for just a given service, which is distinctive between people that are more impoverished who qualify across the board. And usually what we find is housing affordability. But that's a big eye-opener for them. And they tend not to fill out a survey because they think they're affluent, and they are in a typical market, but you are not a typical market.
Yeah.
Can I just say something or ask something here too, not to put too fine a point on it, but in the previous slide, I noticed one has to be male or female, and I guess that is part of the political climate we live in. And same thing with race, but those are, we're talking about all kinds of data here, nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio. So you know, previously, some people would not classify themselves as male or female, just like many people classify themselves as biracial or multiracial. In the slide that we're looking at right now with median income, I saw the word household income, and then I saw the word family income. And I think that parallel construction of terminology is super important there, because we have people whose housing situations on Nantucket and immigration statuses are, you know, quite variable. So if I'm talking to someone about what's your household income for SNAP, they might, you know, they'll tell me whatever those answers are. But then if I switch that up and say, what's your family income? And somebody's in Jamaica half the year, or somebody's, you know, that those are just different concepts. And I just want to make sure that the language we're using is consistent. As you know, that's important. That's all.
And Sarah, I think those are really critical distinctions. In the survey questionnaire, we do have non-gender conforming, transgender, and in that 2.6%, I think we're going to see a number of them still prefer not to answer, but we will tease that out as we get more of that. But and I think the distinction with the family income we can certainly make.
And we were only for like the race and ethnicity, we only showed the groups that have responded with those race ethnicity. And so to that point, as Tracy also, with 6.3% of people who have responded, they chose not to, they preferred not to answer that question. But yeah, we'll go back and tease that out a little bit more.
Yeah, I think the income question is the most concerning, just because it trips people up when they think about my household is me and all these non-family housemates. But then if you ask me about my family income, who's in my family? Is that, you know, it's very fluid. So that's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we'll go back and tease that out. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So here, you know, housing was one of the things that really has been the biggest topic of discussion, and came from interviews and with residents. You know, but when individuals were asked how did they describe their housing situation, 59% of them live with a spouse, a parent, or a child, with only 24% of saying living alone. And here we start seeing a lot of the housing discrepancies that people have talked about. Here, people within this group, and then just in town, 58% of them reported owning a home. I've gone back and I've looked at that, but I will get you more accurate data. A lot of that 58% are individuals who are reporting living with a spouse or a child. The one thing that we're really interested on that one, and again, I will do more digging into this data, is how many of them rent either their home or a room to afford their home. I know with one of the focus groups that we had, one individual reported, I rent my entire house throughout the season. Like I pretty much become homeless during the season so I can afford to keep my house. And so we'll do a bigger data dive into the 58% here on the graph below, for the individuals that are reporting owning a home.
This is Veronica, we actually had some conversation at CRC on that, because we don't want to get tangled up in a short-term rental debate or whatever, but I think that there is something significant that for the 58% of the people that own homes, how many use their home to supplement income? So they're maybe not receiving some of the other services that are provided on the island. So their home becomes a critical part of maintaining a life on the island.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Suzanne. You're muted.
I have a comment about the if anybody is aware, I mean, I'm sure people are aware of it, but how it fits into our needs assessment survey. The town of Nantucket has been doing a survey online, and at first I thought, oh, good, it's our needs assessment survey, and it's not. They have their own survey, and a lot of the questions are very similar. And I'm wondering how that interfaces with what we're doing, and can we use any data from that, or I don't know.
So the I don't know what so they're using Zen City, which is
Yes, Zen City.
The Zen City, those are a different methodology to survey. They're not attempting to do statistical significance with they're not attempting to do statistical significance with that in the same way that we are with our numbers, but we can access that information and we can use it. It's not an apples to apples comparison
Mhm.
because of the way that the data is collected. Those are only online, which has some relatively profound like co-founding like there's a lot of reasons why it's not going to be apples to apples if it's solely online like that, but we will get that data in the end. That was just a different contracting process, and it's looking for sentiment analysis more than statistical, I believe.
Okay.
And what department is doing that?
Comms.
Okay.
And that might be in the house too. I'm not exactly sure. Like that might
Wait,
be
what department is doing it, Jericho?
the communications office is doing it.
Oh, okay.
Well, and I'm gonna skip this because we're coming up to our time. But one of the things that I want to bring up is we ask residents how would they rate the quality of life in Nantucket, and this is the chart above, and this is actually really interesting because your first three ones are for your non-Hispanic group. And we can see that when it comes to quality of life for families, for children, and young adults, you have a lot of that really good, satisfactory, good, and excellent respondings. I mean, in those first three. Then the next three are Hispanic responses only. And we're kind of seeing the opposite. So we're seeing a lot of the poor, the fair, and the satisfactory. So there is a clear distinction here among how either it's perception or it might be really the quality of life that your Hispanics on island are experiencing compared to your non-Hispanic population. So that to us was really just eye-opening and really distinctive. We have talked a lot about the Hispanic groups, how they have to put up with a lot of just housing inequalities, work inequalities, particularly if they are undocumented on island. But the data does really show that they just have a different sentiment when it comes to what their perception is about the overall quality of life in Nantucket. And then just looking as a final slide, and you'll get this presentation. When we were looking at just the overall human services, like what are people thinking that it's the biggest needs for Nantucket residents? The first three ones, actually, I thought housing was going to be the number one. But the first three ones are really health related. And Sarah, this goes to the hospital, and the work that you're all doing with your needs assessment. Oral dental care, primary care, and specialty care were the three ones that have ranked the highest as far as human services need. And then the next five tends to be more on the social determinants aspect side of services. Early child care, particularly on that one, infant child care. Mental health, housing again being high. Food assistance, I know there's been a lot of great work in closing that gap with food assistance, education and training, and then disability services. Those are your top kind of like three as they relate to directly health services, and then five as they relate to the Health and Human Services social determinants of life kind of component. That's everything that we have. Any questions?
I just, looking at this slide makes me think it would be interesting to look at it from a household or family. That's a debate for another time, income, because primary care and dental care, though, like that's just I mean, it's a lack of providers. Dental care is crazy, but
Yeah.
that's a problem that like I could deal with because I'm in a point of privilege. Whereas people who make less money, I feel like their idea of what the biggest problems are housing and like health is almost a secondary thing when you can't have enough money to have live somewhere or eat. So it would be interesting to tease out the details of who said was the biggest issue.
And I think, Sue, that is a great point. There is an attachment to this presentation for the human services, and you're going to see this as a form of a heat map to really tease out a lot more of those issues components. The only drawback here is that you see it, but for example, here in primary healthcare, the one that's the highest at 100%, we only had one respondent there. So this is why the call for action and making sure that we can get more surveys, more community input will really make this more robust and it'll help us really say, okay, this is even on a line by line issue is more statistically significant. But it goes to your point too of teasing those things out by race, by income, by gender. So you will see that there is heat maps for each one of the different services that were listed on that one slide. Sarah, go ahead.
Marcos, are you sending these slides to us, or could I?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. And then could you go back, I think 2 or 3 slides, just to the one that showed, the one before that with health insurance right here. So I just want to, on the lower left-hand corner, access to healthcare, health insurance. So we can talk about this later, but I know at the point of survey, for example, the Mass General Brigham new dual special needs plan was sort of new and rolling out, but it's rolling out now. And that will offer, for the first time, MGB will offer for Nantucketers a one care plan for people 18 to 64 and a senior care options for folks 65 and older. So I get that all of this is point in time anyway, and lots of things are changing, but I just wanted to look at that number again. And even to Sue's point, it's true. I think many of us do start the day from a point of privilege, but I do think privilege is it might be your household or family income, but it is really, when you're talking about healthcare, it is fundamentally about insurance.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I just, my eyes just traveled right into the middle of the current slide with the transportation off island. We're trying to do some more work on that.
And that was one of the things that was pediatric care was a big area that came in as an area of need. But the transportation, the referral process, as particularly people have to go off island. But as a closing remark, and we can answer, I'm happy to answer more questions. You will get this slide. But again, this is why our great discussion around the call to action and the ideas that we came up with, hopefully we can make those be a reality to make sure that those numbers increase, that we continue to get this community input to really have it be more of a meaningful, statistically significant data.
And Marcos, in my close, Sarah, some of your comments and others on income, on gender, on insurance, on services, please let us know, because a lot of this is in the survey. We just haven't had response with it. but it will also help us as we're forming that initial outline of the report and finalizing the data analysis in March prior to that second tranche with the seasonal workers in May.
Marcos, I have a question.
Go ahead.
When is the drop dead deadline for getting responses to get you more data?
We're going to start the outline of the report late March, but we're doing data analysis consecutively. So I would say mid-April would be probably the drop dead last time, not drop dead, sorry, the last kind of like cutoff for data collection.
However, Marcos, we are putting together a list and we'll be sending that to Jericho to send out of these people, in addition to seasonal workers, with surveys with you on site, focus groups happening in May. So it is not closed until then, really.
Okay.
And I think one of our next touch bases will decide an official end date, but the actual survey instrument and the platform that's doing data collection on this is going to go right till the end of the contract. So
Yeah.
worst case, we'll have the data, but just not the full analysis thereof.
Yeah.
So we can we can collect until the contract ends. It's just that in order for them to get the report and do the full
Right.
analysis. But there's an EPI on that, the Martha's Vineyard Collaborative that can do a look at some of the raw data for this for us too. It's on contract with us for that. So we have a couple of additional and we'll hold the data. And also when at the end of the process, the intent here is for the report to come out, and then I also would like to grab the raw data because I think that there's other form, like we could make this available for other people to do analysis on, and there's no reason to be proprietary about it at all.
And you will get all the raw data. You will. It is your data. You own it. So yeah.
All right. Thank you. Any other comments, questions for Tracy or Marcos? Okay, with none, I just wanted to thank you again for spending the time today. And, now having gone through this again, there's lots of information in here. And I think we all need time to digest it and, take it from here. But thank you for this preliminary view of the work that's done, and we will parcel out tasks to get more of responses, and I'd love to see that number go way up over into, if we can get 700, that would be fabulous, but that may be a little bit
It's good to be ambitious.
yeah, ambitious. But
aspirational, Veronica, aspirational.
Okay, but definitely I would love to see it at 500, because if we're at this number now, and I think there's still a lot of stones unturned, we'll get to 500.
Well, and just one last shameless plug. You have a very unique and differentiating research methodology with this seasonal workers. I think it will be of national interest. I just want to put that out there. It's really something special, I think, that you can share.
And, just on that, Nantucket usually is looked at as, we're like the tiny pimple on the elephant, but we do have some major things that others can learn from us. So, Tracy, that's a very good point. Another reason for us to get more and more data so it becomes more statistically significant. So, thank you. All right, you're welcome to stay, but I know that you're busy people. So we'll continue on with our rest of our meeting, but just want to thank you for being with us today. And we
Thank you.
See you on island.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Okay.
And we'll definitely try and line up his return appearance with a CHS meeting, try and get as much in
Right.
place to do. And then I'll also I might ask him ahead of each meeting we have until the close of contract, just to do a brief update, or I'll report out on where we are for numbers and outreach.
Okay. Before we leave this, if we can just assign some tasks. And there's some that we've just talked about. So we have a letter to the editor, we're working on that, to take that one step further and to get that to N Magazine and potentially running a feature. Tara, would you want to potentially be the point person on that?
Sure. Yeah, I can be.
Okay, thank you. I work down Chamber of Commerce, and I'm very happy to go and have a meeting with the head of the chamber and just see how we can get the businesses to hook in to get their seasonal workers as they're coming back. And I know that they do their monthly get-togethers or whatever. So maybe we can tie something in with that also. So, but I'm willing to do the chamber. Food pantry, if anyone has some time, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday is typically the busier day. I can do that, but if someone would like to help with just being present with the survey, that I think is going to be helpful to get the seasonal workers or the workers that are underemployed at the moment. That's where I think we will see some of them face to face. And I think the biggest thing is to get people to understand that this is anonymous, it's aggregate information, et cetera, et cetera. But if anyone would like to volunteer an hour or so, that would be helpful. You can let me know that at another time.
I mean, I can also, like, anything that needs physical media or printing or anything, I can have stacks of it here if people want to pick up and grab them, if they have another spot they would like to take them to. I'll do the HR, like the town internal comms and so on.
You have to talk a little louder, I
Oh,
think,
sorry.
but yeah.
I'm happy to do the outreach, the town internal, and then any like documentation or printing that anybody needs. I'm more than happy to do that. I want to get the most out of that RICO contract. And then wherever, like, if there's backbone stuff that I can assist with, the fact of the matter is that this is about 15 to 25% of my work responsibilities right now. So there's a limit to the amount of time I can spend directly on this myself. But I am trying to get in front of as many people as possible for this stuff. And if there's any way I can kind of like force multiply by providing back, like either printing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that's something that that I think will go a long way. And then to whatever extent it is necessary to add like the town of Nantucket's HHS department to any of these things, like we're allowed to brand ourselves to the extent that that's useful.
Mhm.
And Jericho, I'm happy to help disperse any of the paper surveys to those places that we listed and talked about.
Perfect.
All right.
And then the Steam Festival.
And everyone will get a copy of the slides that were shown today. Hopefully we'll get that out to you by the end of the day or tomorrow. So you'll have something to read over the cold winter nights. All right. If we want to jump back now up to the update on the grant recommendations for fiscal year 27. So that is pretty well wrapped up at this point. The report has been finalized. I believe this group got a copy of the report?
The draft report,
The
yes.
draft,
The
draft.
difference being, I think I closed a parentheses and I added some headers.
Right.
And that was submitted to finance ahead of our meeting of next week.
Right. And next Tuesday, Jericho and I will be at the Finance Committee with our presentation on our recommendations that will be in the warrant for the May annual town meeting. It was interesting with contract review with a new member, and I asked them to keep track of time dedicated to in a very short period, basically from July through December. And basically it came down to about a, gosh, I don't have my notes on that.
Was it around 35 to 40?
It's about 40, 35 to 40 hours in time on contract review. And I know that it's that's a little bit heavier than some committees on the town, but I think it's important to people know going into it. So we with contract review, there's something else that's happening. There's a warrant article number 69 that has been put into the warrant, basically trying to change the verbiage with NPEDC. NPEDC.
NP and EDC, yeah.
Right.
Planning and economic
They
development.
by our charter have a seat on CRC along with finance, and CHS has 2 seats. Finance has 1, NPEDC has 1, and then there's 3 members at large. We have not had a full committee because NPEDC for the past two years, maybe a little bit longer, has not had a member. The person that had been serving said he could no longer do it, and they have not been able to wrangle someone to sit on that committee. So the verbiage that is in Article 69 basically takes out that they have to be a member of NPEDC, but someone that they recommend to represent them on CRC. We hope that that passes, because if that passes, that means that they can appoint someone. We are just hopeful that there's a whole lot of attention on Nantucket planning and economic development right now with reorganizing the nature of that group, etc. And my hope is that this does not get tied up in that situation, that it's just removing one line, but it will allow us to have a robust committee. So that's just a little bit of.
I had investigated that with compliance, the town compliance officer. If that line is out, it means they can appoint anyone, either staff or they can appoint anyone who, as long as there is a vote appointing a representative, it no longer has to be a sitting member of that board. It just has to be their appointee.
Right.
So I hope it passes.
I can't imagine there'd be any opposition.
I
feel like that should be that's a slam dunk unanimous vote.
the
But you know
bylaw.
what, Sarah,
Yeah.
I'm constantly surprised. So
I mean,
it's,
the entire article is the existing text with 6 words strike with a strike through and 6 words. So I hope it'll go.
exactly.
But chickens and when they are counted.
And I do appreciate the support of the select board on making that warrant that article in there, because we've been asking endlessly to make sure that we have a full committee. So this is one way that maybe we can get there. We are going to part of the presentation for FIDCOM is to talk about the process and how it's been a evolving or it's been an evolution to move that along, and that'll be part of the presentation. And this leads to the request for more funding for the next fiscal year. And right now we are at 175 in substance, and I think that's going to stay constant there. And right now 650 for human services. To raise that up to 825, that'll be $1 million our request for fiscal year 28. And just something that's a really harsh reminder of where this all sits. The town budget is $170 million. So that us asking $1 million for the physical and mental health of our residents should be a no-brainer. But I also know that we are competing for dollars all along. Everyone's need is great, but I'm hoping that the dial gets moved to $1 million, and then from there we increase as we go along. So
and the intent is to have this be an annual process so that it keeps track with cost of living increases, and that if there are sharp and abrupt changes in needs, we can address those. We're not stuck. I was going to get into this in the director report, but the idea is to make sure that this is every year we touch base with what the last measured needs were and what the adjustment in service delivery cost is, and that we make a request each year, and then that we pattern the funding structure like we did with the opioid, where we have kind of like smaller buckets than just all of human services.
Right. One of the things that was discussed is we made a number of changes this year in the grant process. One of them was to have a cap at $100,000 for any one award. And that was an award in a category. So you could have applied in the human services bucket and in the substance misuse bucket, but there could not be more than 100 in either of those buckets. And that I think was helpful, but we also learned that it may have added a little bit of confusion for some people. So one of the steps that we want to add in for the next cycle is to have a letter of intent. Letter of intent would just be, this is what I'm thinking of. This is just an overview. It's not a full application, but what that would help is we had people asking for $100,000 where we looked and said, we don't have a great idea, wonderful program, but there's no way that we have enough money for that. And people spend a great deal of time and effort in doing their grant applications, and we don't want to cause any ill will when we cannot fund to that level. So the letter of intent will be an additional step that just will hopefully assist the grant process. And
it lets the committee have feedback on the pitch idea before you go through a whole grant proposal.
Exactly. September 18th is the day that's been chosen for the grant award presentation. It was thought that doing it in the summer is just impossible. The monies don't release until July 1st. Doing it in the spring, so it's sort of, that is the kickoff date for the next cycle. But if you put that on your calendar, the 18th, and we're hoping that it'll be hosted again at the Dreamland, that they'll be kind enough to let us have that room upstairs that is just the perfect size, et cetera, and a beautiful atmosphere to have this celebration. We're talking about having office hours, leading before the letter of intent. So if people want to come and sit down, we'll have set office hours that people can discuss ahead of time before they get into writing the grant. We're still going to do a bidders information session because that's also very helpful for particularly people who are not necessarily do this for their living, but help guide them through the process. And anything else?
Not directly like CRC grant related, no.
Okay.
I am in other human services stuff. I'm working with this. Oh, we want to wrap up that agenda item?
Yes, just before anything else in that area. The other thing, we had a very hearty discussion with this group back in December about notifying people of their grant award, and that has gone out. And I think that it was a positive step because people are in the middle of applying for other grants, at least, although it was sent with caveat that it's not certain until town meeting, at least they can use it for planning purposes. So I appreciate people who participated in that discussion back in December because
and on that note, I'm intending to have all of the agreements ironed out and the reporting terms put together for each of the grant recipients. I'm hoping to start that basically right after town meeting, so that we can have everybody. We'll get kind of more time to work on the reporting terms, and this coming year's project for CRC is to revise the reporting. So we capture some of the data and can present it outward in something resembling a dashboard on some tempo, because there's a lot of useful information that is collected there that could be used in a variety of different ways. And we need to figure out how to capture that.
And I think now, having looked at just preliminary information that we've gotten from Marcos, these quarterly reports that are submitted and it's part of the contract, there is data there. And, it's a shame to have it just sit, but I also know that, you're looking at the, between the screen and what's here, this is the available, people power that we have, to turn that into usable information. So,
and there's definitely ways to make it more useful. Like it's not statistical data, but it's information that is an indicator of socioeconomic directions and impacts. It's things like relative changes in number of people using WIC per year over year, and that stuff that if we could collect it and present it effectively would be useful and meaningful information for town residents.
one of the things I'd like to throw out, and I haven't discussed this with Jericho, so hopefully it doesn't fall off the chair. We have had successful use of the Worcester Polytech Institute students that are here during October through December, work on projects. And this potentially could be a very good project of here's our raw data. And
I would go the other way. I would be like, hey, build us a reporting system.
well, whatever way we come into that, this is what we have and how can this be improved so we can capture and turn it into useful information. If anyone has had any experience with any of the student groups that have been here, they're multidisciplined. They come from a scientific background. That's basically the only thing that's common. They could be an electrical engineer, they could be a chemical engineer, they could be someone working in, biology, but they work in an
we losing?
interdisciplinary team, 3 or 4 or 5 are assigned. They do pre-work. And just looking at the timing of it right now, this is when they'll be looking for projects. They do the pre-work. It gets approved in April, May, June. In the first quarter, which is August through October, is when they do all their off-site work. And then they come and they hit the ground running. So they are actually on the island. So
I gotta think about it a little more, but having them involved in in setting up a way for us to do the data collection and then doing initial analysis on it is not too dissimilar from the youth project we had them do before.
right. So that's just so I realize we look at this information and there's so much data there, and it's, if we can, I think our job not only is, keeping our pulse on what's happening and funding, but then turning that information back so it becomes useful for someone.
It also makes the quarterly reporting and quarterly reporting and review way easier. Just as we are at 1:30.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to, I know we.
All right.
I think we lost quorum.
Yeah.
But
So
that's okay.
there's going to be another month-long meeting, but
Jericho, why don't you take?
I'll
your
do it in
report?
I should be able to do it in about 45 seconds. Most of the human service related stuff I'm doing at the moment is getting the agreements, etc., ready for the grant recipients, and then doing the FinCom presentation and defense, as well as preparing for the funding increase request letter. Outside of that, I'm currently working with CFN and housing to hopefully in the next hour or so, I should be hearing if we've received funding through the Community Foundation for a universal pre-K subsidy program that we are hopefully getting off the ground this summer to cover students at licensed childcare facilities on the island starting this fall. It's templated after a variety of programs that are ongoing at the on the Cape. I think we are actually using Orleans's model initially. Once we hear back from funding, I'll be able to set aside time for us to do the intake and set up the systems and processes for that. It is a pilot program. We're going to use data from this to make the case for the following year to find different funding sources for it. And ideally, it'll be attached to an open fund at the Community Foundation, which means that everyone from large employers to private citizens can contribute. The more money that goes into this fund, the greater the amount of support each individual student will get. Basically, we're going to take the pot of money, we're going to divide it for each child that's in an accredited childcare facility, ensuring a certain minimum level of subsidy for that particular child for that year. But the more that goes in, the greater that subsidy goes, the longer it lasts. After that, I'm working with the school right now to help close a gap on vision screenings to prescriptions. There's a school nurses and the school registrar have identified a population between 70 and 110 students who have failed a vision screening, which is administered locally, but have not been able to get a prescription because of similar to the dentistry issue that came up in the needs assessment slide, there's insufficient eye doctors to get prescriptions written. So ideally, we're going to copy the dental model that is actually currently taking place in the other room in the trailer and bring a organization, one of them that is identified as Onsite 2020, just bring them down to the island to do prescriptions. From there, both the school registrar or the vendor who's doing the eyeglasses thing will be able to close that final gap and sell glasses or provide a prescription for ordering online. If all goes smoothly on that, we're going to try and get the proposal together once we identify the vendor to try and do that April or May, just to align with parental free time, because there will have to be a parental component to this. Barring that, we're going to try and get it going mid-fall. That is a pretty unique issue here, is that we can kind of one and done a fair percentage of that population, and we can monitor that ongoing to make sure that we can call in vision to do bulk screenings, so that is a discrete single cost that should close a gap, which is one of those things that is so rare in this line of work. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm really excited to see if we can use this subsidy program to segue into expanding the amount of available childcare facilities on the island. The subsidy program does not change the number of slots. We know from a variety of different sources, statistical and anecdotal, that one of the major barriers to employment on the island is that there is a lack of childcare facilities, and it's one of the reasons that it is very difficult to hold and maintain young professionals that form the next generation of any community's working class. So discussions are underway on how to expand the number of available seats, and that is a much bigger and costlier problem, but that is something that is being examined going forward. That's most of what I'm doing in human services. There's some health stuff that's going on with watershed regs. There's also the departure of the current health director, which is going to involve some reshuffling on how things work on an operational basis in the health department. So it's a little wobbly at the moment, but I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on, and I think there's a lot of potential for meaningful change on a systems level on a couple of key points that have been problems for years. That's me.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. With no questions, next is community human services items by CHS members. Anyone want to bring anything forth or talk about anything? With no hands up, keep up the good work. We know things are happening, but we're sensitive to time now also. New business, one thing I need to just put a plea out for Deborah Gudeman, who is now the committee, but I forget what her actual title is.
Coordinator, I think.
She was a member of our committee for a while. She's the committee operations coordinator. She has asked me to just remind people to do their conflict of interest training. If you have not done that, it's done online. If you haven't done it, you need the link, just, contact me, we'll get it out to you. But if you can get that done, that would be very much appreciated. Our next meeting, this one is out of sync as far as the Thursday. We canceled January, did today. The next one, I believe, will be the 4th Thursday at noon, which is March 20, is it March 24th? Is that correct, Lexi? Let me double check. Or no, actually March 26th. I think that's what it is.
It's March 26th is the 4th Thursday.
Okay. All right, so we will be meeting on March 26th. And then if I'm looking onto April, I believe we're hoping that we have Marcos on island for April 24th, and our meeting will be the 23rd of April. So that will line up with potentially on site with Marcos at that point. So keep those two dates in mind. Any other new business? All right, with our next meeting date set, I guess the last thing is a motion to adjourn. And do we still have quorum?
We do not.
Okay, we've lost our quorum. And once again, it's 1:39, but I think Marcos, having him and looking at that was important. We try to keep this to an hour, but we've gone over, so I appreciate everyone's time. So we're not going to adjourn. We will put that on our next meeting for the first thing, and have a great day, everyone. All right.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks
All
so
right.
much.
Sarah, can you hang on for 1 second before after the recording stops?
Who were you asking?
Sarah. All
Yes.
right.
Okay.
Recording stopped.
Hold
All
on.
right.